Hello and welcome to the Coaching Crowd podcast with me, Zoe Hawkins, and my friend and co-host Jo Wheatley.
Hi, everybody. Good to be with you today. Today, we're talking about how to choose a coaching accreditation body. And the reason we're talking about this is it is really important to get accredited as a coach in the current environment. It's a really important credibility flag. It shows that you are committed to your continuous professional development. And we know from all the conversations we have in good company how confused people are about which one, when, how. And so we thought we'd talk a little bit about the topic to try and simplify it for you.
Ultimately, we want to remove barriers, don't we, so that people can get accredited. We know there's loads of coaches out there who have every intention to get accredited, but the thought of doing it is just too much because life is busy, right? And accreditation can be one of those things which is a nice to have as opposed to feeling like it's a must have. So it drops down the list. And I think when it comes to deciding, oh, which coaching body do I go with, that can look like a barrier and another reason to not progress. So we're just going to make it really simple for you today. And I think the thing that I would start with saying is that any of them is a great decision. You know, when you're sitting in a place of not being accredited, choosing any of the coaching bodies to accredit yourself with is brilliant because you're already demonstrating that quality and ethics. So being indecisive about which one to go with might be a smokescreen for something else. It might just be that you're busy, but ultimately you can't make a bad choice when it comes to getting accredited with a coaching body. So that would be my starting position on accreditation.
Yeah, I think there's always that fear of what if I choose the wrong one? What if I choose the wrong one, which means that when I go for a particular opportunity, I don't have what they need. And actually, in our experience, we were accredited with one of the coaching bodies for our whole careers, and we have worked with clients all over the world uh, in a direct relationship with organizations, but also as associates as well. So as long as your coaching accreditation body is globally recognized, you should be fine. So whilst the ICF is the one that I think somehow people often think of or are told is the creme de la creme, we see them all equally. And when I say all, the ones that we are familiar with are the ICF, the EMCC, and the Association for Coaching. And whilst the ICF may be more well known in the US, they are a global organization. The European Mentoring and Coaching Council, despite the word European being in the name, are a global coaching accreditation body, as are the Association for Coaching. So as long as you're choosing one that is globally recognized, you would be meeting the criteria for most organizations, unless they specifically required one. We have never found that in our experience, and we can only talk from our experience.
We often find the barrier comes with the original training that you've done and not the accreditation. So many organizations, if you're working internationally, will be looking for a particular kind of coaching training. So you may have gone and done a 2-day certificate and built your hours up and then go and get on the first rung of accreditation. So it looks like you have an accreditation, but they will look to your original coaching training to decide if that meets their criteria. So, you know, having a globally recognized qualification, obviously that's what we provide, but also, you know, from universities and places like that, that can stand you in really good stead to supplement your accreditation. So accreditation is one strand of your bow. It's not everything. So I think when you look to becoming accredited and you find perhaps that you don't meet the criteria for getting the upper levels of accreditation. So let's say you've done an internal coaching program, you spent years working as an internal coach and you received CPD and supervision. So you've had a robust kind of entry into coaching. But what you don't have is enough education hours in order to secure the higher levels of accreditation. And by this, I mean, if you take the EMCC as an example, 50 hours would be their first rung at foundation level, 100 hours at practitioner, then there's senior practitioner and master practitioner. So you may be looking at your experience thinking, gosh, I feel like I need to represent myself at a senior practitioner level, like I have the hours, but I don't have enough coaching training hours. Well, then you could look to go down a CPD route to supplement your training. So your original coach training would be part of what you use against your accreditation. and then go and seek out accredited CPD to be able to put yourself in a position where you're broadening and deepening your coaching education to be able to step into those higher levels of accreditation with confidence and with the competence that you have what you need.
Yeah, there are different routes because when people fall in love with coaching, they don't necessarily know they're going to fall in love with it. And they might not even know that coaching exists, but they happen to do a program, maybe work for them to do it, or they saw something that spoke to them and they start doing it. So they may not be thinking about accreditation at that particular point. So when people come and chat to us and say, oh, interested in your coaching qualifications, we are looking to understand what is it you want to do with this qualification? Where's that interest coming from? And we like to learn about what's brought them to this point. And if in that conversation they're sharing with us, they've done 6 different coaching type trainings, but I think I need to do a big one to get my accreditation, we'll be really honest and say to them, if we think they've already got enough, look, I don't think you need to do a level 7, for example. I think if you did another CPD piece, that would give you enough. But go and check with the accrediting body that you want to get accredited with, or here are the accrediting bodies. Go and have a conversation with them and then choose the best path for you. And some people still want to almost kind of go back to the beginning and do that level 7. For those that don't really have any coaching training, the great thing about our level 7 qualification is that it meets the training requirements for accreditation. So whilst you still need to get your coaching hours up to that level, it does meet the training requirements. So you can have the confidence that you've ticked that box around it. And the EMCC are a lot more, in our experience, open to recognizing previous experience of coaching or mentoring in the role. So that's something to bear in mind, as is how long the accreditation lasts for. So the accreditation with the different coaching bodies lasts for different periods of time before you need to get re-accredited. And when you get accredited, that involves a cost. And so therefore getting re-accredited also involves a cost. It's almost like a license that shows, for this period of time, my license lasts. And during that period, whether it's 3 years or 5 years, depending on the accrediting body, there is a requirement for you to undertake certain CPD to demonstrate your continued commitment to growing and developing as a coach. So if you're looking for, the longest possible gap between that might be the decision maker for you. It might be that you look at the accrediting body's view around coaching and which most closely matches to your own view of coaching.
I think when you touch on there around the duration of how long an accreditation lasts, different coaching bodies have different requirements for the kind of CPD that counts towards your accreditation as well. So if you take the ICF and you become accredited with the ICF, in order to maintain that accreditation, you have to do a certain amount of CPD that is recognized with CCEs, and that stands for Continued Coach Education. So you might go along to a seminar that's put on by the Association for Coaching, for example, or the EMCC, and it could be a really robust seminar. I've been to one before with the Association for Coaching where a therapist was taking the session, leading us through some creative activities and talking about the boundary between coaching and mentoring. Really robust. But that wouldn't have counted towards maintaining my accreditation with the ICF because it wasn't recognized CCEs, but it did count with the EMCC and the Association for Coaching. Now, obviously, the benefit of doing CCE, CPD coaching development is that you know that it's been verified, checked, and it's robust, and it's considered to be a really thorough program through the eyes of your accrediting bodies. So there are pros and cons to both. And I don't think that one is better than the other, but it comes down again to what is your preference? What is your commitment to yourself and your CPD? Is that something that you want, is to choose from a list of accredited coaching CPD programs that you need to do every 3 years? Or would you like more freedom to be able to splash around in different things and use then those experiences when you come to reaccredit with the other bodies? So I think really what our message is yes, no one coaching body is better than the other. They are all created equally. And it's personal preference. Like, how do you want to experience your accreditation journey, your entry into CPD?
I think it's really important to also stay abreast with a range of accrediting bodies. I certainly always keep an eye, and I'm on the mailing lists of all of them. So I hear about the different development opportunities they've got, and they'll often have a price for members and a price for non-members. And so it means that even if you aren't a member or accredited with that particular body, you can still often access their CPD opportunities. I look to see who are they focusing as speakers, because, you know, when you're starting out in coaching as well, and you're thinking, okay, I finished my training, but I still want to learn from other people that are further on in that journey. I think it's really important to do that. You may have opportunities to volunteer with, you know, any or all of the accrediting bodies. That can be a really great thing to do at any stage in your career. And if you have a special interest, they'll often have special interest groups, and that can be a great idea to get involved in, to contribute to, and to learn from other people in that area as well. So I would encourage you, yes, choose a coaching body to get accredited with, and keep your awareness up around what they're all doing.
Yeah, 100%. And there's so much value to be gained from being connected to those bodies, as you said, Joe, different things that come out, but they all tend to release research papers, and those research papers are, you know, really valuable for being able to see what's happening in the industry. I think another piece around like accrediting is looking at just what's your current position. So, as we said, the different coaching bodies all have different starting points in terms of experience that you might need to have. So, if you're somebody who is at the very beginning of their journey and you only have, you know, well, a minimal number of hours, you know, but you want to become accredited, you want to look at a body that offers a rung of accreditation so that you can get on the ladder and start developing your experience. Some of the bodies have higher thresholds to be able to join. So that's also something to consider around when do you want to start your accreditation journey? Like at what point in your you know, coaching career, whether you're an internal coach or an external coach. And I think that point is important as well, to recognize that if you're working as an internal coach, you can get accredited as well. So I think sometimes you forget that, you know, it's only external, professional, independent, self-employed coaches that, you know, go to get accredited. And that's just not true. Like if you're a line manager who's done some coaching training and you're busy supporting your team, there are coaching bodies who would recognize that and, you know, help you and guide you through the accreditation process so that you can get your expertise recognized as well.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because some of them, at least I know for sure, have organizational membership as well, which can be more cost effective for organizations if you've got a number of different coaches in the organization. So that might be worth checking out if that applies to the situation that you're in. And one of the reasons that our courses are accredited with all three of the bodies is demonstrates what you were saying earlier, Zoe, which is that they all have a role to play, an important role in developing the standards of the profession, professionalizing profession, and creating a great community actually as well of coaches. And so we want to make sure with our qualifications, knowing that people don't necessarily feel that they know enough about accreditation at the point that they're thinking about doing training, that all doors remain open to them. So you can kind of take that pressure off, you know, off your plate and enjoy getting your qualification, knowing that the training gives you a route to accreditation with whichever coaching body you choose to join once you've developed your knowledge and understanding of them. And I would recommend that you speak to different people about the different coaching bodies. So speak to the different people in those different coaching bodies to learn about their accreditation pathways. Speak to the training providers that you are looking to do training with and get them to educate you around coaching accreditation, and then speak to other coaches. Ask them about their experience of going through the accreditation pathways with the different accrediting bodies. And then that will enable you to make an informed choice around what's going to suit you and your situation the best.
Mm. I think one of the last things I would say is you don't feel the pressure to have to accredit with all of them. We have questions, don't we, from learners who are like, oh, so I think I'm going to get accredited with the EMCC. Do I also need to go down the ICF route? Do I also need Association for Coaching? And as we said at the start, because they are all equal, because an accreditation demonstrates your commitment to the industry, you don't need to accredit with more than one body. Joe and I do because we are a training provider. And so we want to have and go through the process of have the experience that many of our learners will have. And it helps to educate us on not just the process, but also experiencing the coaching bodies from the inside. So it's not something that is necessary in order to be a professional and ethical coach.
It would actually be quite unusual to get accredited with more than one coaching body. But having said that, you can change.
Of
So
course.
you might start out getting accredited with a body that perhaps the organization you train with is affiliated to, and so that's what you learn about first, and it seems fine to you, and you get accredited with them. And then as you learn more about the coaching industry and the different accrediting bodies, you might decide that you want to swap for any one of the reasons that we mentioned earlier, and then you go through those pathways. And of course the organizations want to support you to get accredited.
Mm.
It's in their interest to do that. And so even if you make a decision and then when you learn more, you're like, oh, actually I feel more of an affinity to another one, you can change, like lots of things in life. And actually there is a lot of value in doing that. And there are pros and cons of each of the accrediting bodies. So in the conversations I have with people, there are things that we all say that we really like about different organizations, and there are things that might irritate us or we might be frustrated by or not feel completely aligned to. And I think that's like most experiences in life. But the most important thing is that you're informed about what you're doing and what you're signing up to. That's the
Mm.
other thing. You're investing time and money. So you want to make sure that you feel aligned to it. And then that you can proudly tell people, yes, I have a coaching qualification. Yes, I'm an accredited coach and I'm accredited at this level. And you can talk about it with understanding of the value that that brings to your client or the organization that you're supporting clients in.
I think on that, Joe, it's probably also worth mentioning that you will come across some coaches who are deeply passionate about their accrediting organization and who will take a stance that their accrediting organization is the one and it is the most important one. And just again, to recognize that that's okay for that person to have a strong opinion about that. It doesn't have to influence your decision. So if you're doing your research and you're making an informed decision for yourself about what's good for you, have conviction in your own decisions. Like you don't have to lean on others or be swayed by other people's perspectives that perhaps one is better than the other. That's that doesn't have to be the case. So once you've done your research and you've kind of made your decision, stand by it and be proud to be part of that. Because as we said at the beginning, being accredited is what is to be proud of and what demonstrates your ethics and your commitment to the profession. The body itself is a vehicle.
And if you're in other professions, I suppose we didn't really cover the basics of it. Like you and I used to be in HR, and so CIPD was the accrediting body there, and it was a lot simpler because there was one. So you go for that. I think in accounting there's more than one, so there's maybe more similarities to the experience there. And there is so much overlap between the accrediting bodies. Sometimes it's hard to differentiate between them as well. So don't feel pressured, take your time. The websites have improved so much over the recent years that where it used to be hard to find information, I think now you can find it readily available. And of course, you can drop questions into our Coaching Crowd Facebook group. There's lots of coaches, and thousands of coaches in there that will be able to answer your questions and give you information about these things, as well as going direct to the accrediting bodies websites, because sometimes it still feels hard to make sense of it when you go onto the websites.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're not in that group yet, then head on over to Facebook and search for the Coaching Crowd, and you will find us and thousands of other people in that group over there.